From Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine in Cleveland, Ohio, this is the All Access Med School Admissions Podcast. Hello again, everybody. I'm your host, Christian Essman. Great to be with you again. And today we're headed to the state just south of Ohio, to the Bluegrass State, where we're going to do a deep dive into the University of Kentucky College of Medicine. And joining me in this conversation is my friend, Dr. Wendy Jackson. She is not only my friend, but she is the School of Medicine's Associate Dean for Admissions, and she is also an alumna of the College of Medicine, which I think as we get into the conversation, you'll hear, I think that offers her a unique perspective as one who used to walk the halls as a student there. Normally here, I would read you a description of my guest and her bio, but as we get right into this conversation, I think you'll enjoy hearing it from her much more. So with that, let's just jump right into my conversation with Dr. Jackson and hear all things about the University of Kentucky College of Medicine. Well, good afternoon, Dr. Jackson. Thank you so much for joining me. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. You can just call me Wendy moving forward if you'd like.
All right. Thank you so much, Wendy. I've been anxiously trying to have you come on here because I've had people emailing me that they want to hear from University of Kentucky College of Medicine, and now it's finally happening.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yes,
that's exciting.
Yes, I know. So the listeners have spoken. So we're delivering on this. So lots to talk about today. Kind of the usual themes. We're going to talk about some of your curricular highlights and things that make UK unique, and talk a little bit about your admissions process. Anything else you want to tell people about your school. But before we get into that, I'd love to hear if you could talk a little bit about how you found yourself in this role of the Associate Dean for Admissions at the University of Kentucky College of Medicine.
Oh my gosh, I'd love to share that with you, Kristen. I honestly am an obstetrician gynecologist by training, but I'm an alum of the University of Kentucky College of Medicine. So I attended medical school here, stayed and trained in OBGYN, and was actively participate in the faculty. And as you may know, in academic medicine, we're always seeking how we can advance through the ranks, right? Mm-hmm. And I had a mentor that was the chair of my department, and she sent me the email promoting the position. Mm. And she said, "You ever thought about this? You like outreach?" I'm chatty, obviously. You ever thought about admissions? And I just told her, no, thank you. I love seeing patients. That's where I was spending the majority of my time. I had small children, the whole nine.
I'm too busy.
I'm too busy. My plate's so full, what we say. But then the more I pondered, the more I could see myself in the role. So I thought, why not? And I applied for the position, interviewed, and kind of the rest is history.
Wow. So you walked those hallways as a student, and now you rule the admissions land there.
I don't know about ruling the admissions land, but you can find my composite photo.
Oh, really?
Just outside the medical student lounge.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm the last of the black and white photos.
Oh, well, that's just for that's just like a filter now. That's just people use, that as filters now. Yeah, it's very common.
Thanks for saying that. Thanks.
Yeah, very common, very common. Well, that's great. And so you've been doing this now several years. Yep. And a little bit about your background growing up. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
I don't mind sharing at all. So I'm actually from Southern Ohio. My family is from Pike County, Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Southern Ohio, it's kind of relatable to Eastern Kentucky. Mm-hmm. It's very rural. Mm-hmm. And I think that rural upbringing, I grew up in a military household with my stepdad, but predating that, I was born to an adolescent mom. My mom was a 14 years old when she had me. So I know, right? So she has a 7th grade education, but over time, as she was raising me, what I learned is that she valued education. And so in the classroom is where I learned that I could be fierce regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of my background and what that looked like. Education was sort of a level playing field. So from that background, she married my stepfather who raised me, and we kind of moved around. He was in the Marines. So I've lived in North Carolina. I've lived in Southwest Georgia on military bases, broadening my horizons in terms of exposure to different cultures, races, ethnicities, so on and so forth. And over time, have really just made my way to a small historically Black college that's located in Frankfort, Kentucky for undergrad. And from there on to medical school at UK. So that's a little about my background.
That's amazing. Do you do any work with students at UK that are first gen college or first gen medicine?
Well, we actually had some support in place there, and I always have an open door policy for individuals who need some one-on-one advising. I don't know. When I reflect back over my background, did I have any formal training on how to secure a mentor? Absolutely not. You kind of figured it out. But I crossed paths with individuals who welcomed me into their spaces, who had knowledge about things that I didn't possess. And that's likely how I got to be where I am now. So I hope to be the same individual for everybody, but especially folks who are coming from backgrounds like me. So my office, obviously, email, outreach efforts across the University of Kentucky's campus and across the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I hope to be an open book and to share the knowledge I possess to help folks coming from a similar background. Yeah,
that's really that's tremendous. And I've often heard from students who are first generation college or first generation medicine, like they don't feel like they have the playbook. Like everybody else has a playbook, but they don't have the playbook, and they're trying to figure out what's in the playbook. And so to find mentors such as yourself who've walked that pathway, I think could be probably very powerful.
I think so. And then there's not really a need for them to recreate the wheel, right? They can modify it. They can upgrade it, but at least they have some foundational knowledge in which to springboard from and advance themselves through the complexities of a career in medicine.
Yeah. Wow. That's an amazing. I'm sure there's much more to that story, but that is really, thank you for sharing that sketch of your background, because that's really very powerful.
I love that you described it as a sketch. I just, I didn't, as we get our footing here, I didn't want to be too wordy, too chatty about my background. So I think we gave a nice overview.
Yeah, no, I think it really sets the stage nicely. Thank you very much.
Sure.
I'm excited to hear a bit about the curriculum, what you have there at University of Kentucky. As someone who's gone through I'm sure there's been some curricular changes over time, but what you have now, I'm sure they've kind of modified some things from time to time.
I would hope so, given that I graduated in 2004.
But when you go and meet pre-medical students, and what is it that you want to get across to them regarding some of the highlights of your curricular model there at UK?
Oh, absolutely. So we refer to it here as the Kentucky Integrated Curriculum right now. And what I like to showcase is that we're very good at integrating subject matter very early on out of the gate in the curriculum. We really want to teach organ system function and dysfunction simultaneously. And when I think about the language and those word choices, I can almost appreciate it. If I close my eyes, I could see a system operationalizing. I could disrupt that system and it would be the disease manifestation. I could reintroduce the pharmacology that corrects the system and then see the treatment output, right? And for me, that takes a very complex concept and simplifies it and delivers it in such a way that an M1 medical student could grasp the content and the material that we're learning very early on. So that's something that Kentucky, I feel, does extremely well. And that's often what I will highlight to prospective students as I'm out covering the Commonwealth and the nation, promoting UK College of Medicine.
Is the format in the first 2 years primarily lecture, or is it flipped classroom, or is it small group? What does that look like?
We're a flipped classroom model, but honestly, we have small group opportunities as well. And we have longitudinal courses that run through each year of our curriculum that take a large cohort and break them down into smaller groups. So you really, one, get to learn how to doctor, but number two, you get to learn that with peers that you may not have necessarily been studying with, right? So I've got some flipped classroom activity occurring, but then small group as well. Like our introduction to clinical medicine is small group, advanced clinical medicine in the second year where you're learning that physical exam is small group as well. And it's similar across our campuses. We actually have 4 campuses. I don't know
I was just going to get to that and say,
good.
We should probably tell people
that
there's not just one campus. There are 4.
That's right. There are 4. Right. So the University of Kentucky College of Medicine, actually, I'd like to break the campuses down. The first campus, obviously, is the flagship. It's in Lexington. It's what most folks are going to think about. Opened the doors in 1960 and graduated that first cohort in 64. Class size has grown tremendously over time, but this campus houses the MD PhD program as well. Right. We recognize that Kentucky is a pretty longitudinal state, and a lot of our state is rural. And that can serve as a barrier in getting patients in. So the College of Medicine was very proactive in trying to brainstorm on ways to get providers to go back into that space, right? So why not have medical students that are from there or passionate about rural medicine? And maybe train under doctors who are practicing rural medicine. So we do have the rural medicine, the Rural Physician Leadership Program. It goes by RPLP. It's housed out in Eastern Kentucky. Those students there's only 12 a year. They spend the first 2 years on the Lexington campus. Then they head out during the application phase, the clinical rotations, to Eastern Kentucky and train under doctors practicing rural medicine. So that's campus 2. And then in 2018, we opened the doors in the western part of the state in Bowling Green, Kentucky. It's in Warren County. We take now 32 students a year, and they spend all 4 years on that campus right there in Bowling Green. We have an infrastructure that supports that level of learning through partnerships that exist between MedCenter Health, UK College of Medicine, and Western Kentucky University. And if that wasn't enough, a year later in 2019, we opened the doors in Highland Heights, Kentucky, where we actually take 30, it's going to be 37 now, students a year. And the partnership exists between St. Elizabeth Healthcare, which is number 1 in healthcare across the state, and Northern Kentucky University and UK College of Medicine. So that's the way we can house all of the students on that Northern Kentucky campus. That collective class size is 213 this year.
Wow. So
I know.
Well, there's a lot to dig into there. Well, I want to especially hear about the admissions piece when we get to that part about how students wind up there. But regarding the curriculum, so when these students are at these different campuses, are they getting like simulcast lectures? Do they do a lot of the same curricula, or are they separate curricula when they're there?
It's all the same.
Okay.
It's all the Kentucky integrated curriculum, right? So we definitely have to have some technology that exists to interface amongst the campuses and deliver the same educational experience in all 4 locations.
Okay, cool. So they're all getting kind of the same. They're all getting the same Kentucky integrative curriculum.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So then one thing I was doing my homework on were these curricular threads. Can you talk about those?
Yeah. So, just as a thread would be described as kind of just like the fabric you're wearing. It's woven throughout the curriculum. So there are different curricular threads or themes that are integrated into the content throughout the educational experience at Kentucky.
There's like health system science.
All the relevant content. Yeah.
Wendy, can you talk a little bit about, I was reading about these scholarly concentration programs. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Absolutely. The College of Medicine has a scholarly concentration program that's actually offered in different categories. So we have a bioethics and clinical ethics scholarly concentration, global health, rural health, primary care, and then the clinical and translational research scholarly concentrations. And it's really pretty straightforward to become involved. We don't navigate that through the admissions office. However, when students arrive for matriculation, they can make it known by applying through an application, and that typically will provide them, when they're accepted into the scholarly concentration, more intensive experience on those areas, that content area. There's some, with global health, there's some international travel that's involved. You can appreciate a tremendous focus with the rural health scholarly concentration for individuals wishing to practice medicine ultimately in rural health, so on and so forth. And the research scholarly concentration is just one of several opportunities for students to become involved in research opportunities at UK.
Talk a little bit more about research, because people ask us this all the time. Like, how can I get involved in research? So if they decide to do the clinical and translational research scholarly concentration, they're going to get that there. But if they don't do the concentration, what do other research opportunities look like at UK?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I think of it along the lines of three really structured, outside of MD, PhD, three very structured opportunities. One of them, scholarly concentration. One of them is a structured research program we have here that has a stipend paired with it, where you are assigned a faculty member and you're on board with their project, called PSMRF. We also have research electives that students can take. And I always tell folks, if you feel like you just kind of want to dabble around in research, but you want less structure, that you could just make the ask to a faculty member who's conducting research in your area of interest. It's pretty easy for students to get on a research project. I think the most important thing is just being really transparent with how much time you plan on dedicating to the research project, so there's no confusion as you advance through that experience.
Yeah, communication's key.
It's essential. Yeah.
So students can kind of tag along to a project, say in a career pathway that they have an interest in, if it works out, kind of thing. But then that way they can kind of see and do, but it doesn't have to be it could be a larger commitment, or it could be just a smaller commitment.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, an example, I had a research project where we were looking at whether or not reproductive health knowledge was protective against teen pregnancy, and had a couple of students who were interested in OBGYN that wanted to be on that project. Very straightforward. I mean, one of them was like, Dr. Jackson, we have an exam coming up. Is it okay if we don't come to clinic that day to recruit? Absolutely right. Like, no pressure. Just you should pass your exam first. That should be your priority, your student first, right? And then loop back next week to join us in the clinic on the project. So pretty easy to get involved in research at UK.
What about the preclinical curriculum? People always ask about how does that work in training students up to get ready to be prepared to see patients? Can you talk a little bit about the preclinical curriculum?
Yeah, I can. I envision our curriculum as very buildable. I feel like we start off with anatomy and radiology. And so what we're trying to provide is that foundational knowledge about the human body, and seeing the gross specimen, translating that into the imaging modalities. So that's the first course. I feel like it gets students acclimated, and then they navigate into foundations, where I think the pace can get very fast and the content can grow, for lack of a better description. But we have longitudinal courses that are woven in the background that I think are the reminders of why you're acquiring so much of this foundational knowledge. It's to ultimately become the best doctor that you can become. So in the first year, that would be the intro to clinical medicine, where you're learning how to conduct the medical interview. We have a very robust standardized patient program that's integrated into that experience. By the end of the year, the M1s then know how to conduct that medical interview. They've got some foundational knowledge. They transition into the M2, where they will learn the physical exam as that little reminder, but they're going through organ system-based courses. That's layering in preparation for what? The delivery of the history and physical in the application phase, that third year of medical school, where they're actually out there healing patients. You're a member of the medical team, right? You're having a very robust experience. And then the advancement into our fourth year, which is called the advanced development phase, where you're doing a lot of simulation, a lot of polishing of your skill set in preparation for that transition to residency. And that's kind of the broad description of the curriculum over 4 years, and how that I mentioned preclinical, but that was the segue into that clinical experience.
I almost interrupted you when you mentioned the standard. You said we have a very strong standardized patient program, so much so that embedded and advertised in your website. Like, here's how you can get involved, kind of thing. I mean, I've not seen that in other schools' websites, that how it's so forward facing. Like, hey, come be a standardized patient.
Why not?
Yeah.
We welcome individuals to be involved because we want that experience with our students to feel very natural, very organic, real. And I think we can do that by having standardized patients who actually want to be involved in that arena, have a vested interest.
I've seen a couple times in applications that some undergrads have signed up to be standardized patients at some med schools.
Right.
And I think that's a really cool opportunity to go and to have that experience as an undergraduate student. And
it's definitely unique in that way. But if you picture the scenarios that involve standardized patients, I taught the introduction to clinical medicine for 2 years. And when I thought about the different standardized patients, oh my gosh, it could be any patient that we would normally see, right? Like we had a scenario where there's an adolescent that enters the clinical space with the guardian there. How do you navigate that conversation when you have an adult in the room and maybe there's something the adolescent is masking? How do you get the adult out of the room? How do you get the truth out of the adolescent? And so we do need some undergrads who are closer to that age group to play the role in a standardized patient position. Yeah,
that's really fun because I use a similar one as an example when people ask us on our interview day about what we do we call them Touchy-Feely Tuesdays. It has another name, Foundation of Clinical Medicine, but students call them Touchy-Feely Tuesdays. But it's like sensitive communication topics. And like what? I'm like, well, you have to perform a social and sexual history on a teen when their parents in a room. Talk about awkward. Like, so how do you get mom or dad with the guardian out of the room? Exactly. So, but to go back to, maybe if you're a UK undergrad looking for something to do, I think they're paid too, right?
They are. Standardized patients are paid.
Yeah. Or you're an undergrad in another med school. I mean, I've seen it in a couple applications. It looks kind of cool.
It's definitely unique.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a little hot tip for people to think about. Wendy, one thing people also ask us about is like academic support. And when there's students there, because it takes a village to get a student through medical school. And I read about a couple things on your website about how you support students. One is students are placed into, I'm using air quotes, houses, named for horses, breeds of horses.
Correct.
Which I thought was really cute. Yeah.
We are in Kentucky, right?
Yeah, I thought that was really cute and clever,
Yes. And who wouldn't want to be named after that for their house? But what's really interesting about our learning communities and this house system is that every student gets assigned to a different house. And represented in that house are M1s through M4s. So this is a unique experience to allow you to sort of integrate yourself with everybody all the students that are at the medical school. I think it's not mandatory to participate. I would strongly encourage it. I think it's a unique opportunity, particularly for someone who maybe didn't go to undergrad with someone else in the class or who may be non-traditional and seeking that community during medical school. It's just a way to become, to have a space that you call your own, right? Yeah. So it makes sense that it's a house system. They all have a faculty lead. Each house does. It's also a great opportunity to navigate through a huge clinical infrastructure. If you have special interest, a specific specialty, that house advisor can help you navigate those waters and become connected. They have, House Olympics, little friendly competition there, Christian. We all love that, right? We thrive.
It's a non-competitive environment.
We're fostering success, but the House Olympics is fun and safe. Yeah, so it's a really great opportunity to become engaged when you make your way to University of Kentucky.
I have to think too on the other campuses that you have similar structures there for those students. Absolutely,
there is a house for that campus, right? So that's kind of nice, particularly if you think about campus size, like the size of the number of students there. If I were one of 30, I would think that's a small cohort. I've got a tight-knit community, but are you necessarily overlapping with those who are ahead of you? This is a great way to meet some of those individuals and gain from their experiences at your respective campus.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of times that knowledge can trickle down from third years and fourth years and tips and advice and stuff like that on as you go through as a new student. I did see too, I jotted down that as you advance in your curriculum, the students get clinical coaches and advanced development directors. Can you talk
the
a little bit about that?
ADDs. Sure,
ADDs,
yeah. You just call them ADDs, and those are all faculty members that are here functioning at UK College of Medicine and UK Healthcare, right? Many of which are alum of the institution. The ones that are immediately coming to mind are, there's a gynecologic oncologist here that's really vested in medical student education. She attended medical school here, trained in residency and fellowship, and is a native Kentuckian, and she's really vested in healthcare in Kentucky. So why not help shape those who are coming down the pike behind her? But yes, absolutely. Lots of support for student ADDs, kind of covering some territory, and they're all spearheaded by a dean that's within the Office of Medical Education.
That's great. So it sounds there's a lot of handoffs along the way to help in student support.
I love that you picked up on that. I feel like that first handoff is from admissions to student affairs, right? Mm-hmm. And we can feel comfortable in admissions handing off because we recognize the infrastructure that's just on the other side of the wall, right? And I appreciate that direct line of communication that is happening between admissions and student affairs, so that we can make sure the infrastructure that's in place for the student we hand off is everything that student needs to be successful. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I didn't mention this yet. I'd like to share it with you, though. I'm not going to lie. When I was a medical student here, Kristen, I always thought the student affairs hallway was the naughty hallway.
Like you didn't want to go down that hallway.
I didn't want to go down there only for financial aid. Like I needed to pay the bills. I got to get down that hallway. And I thought, I can't be down there for any other reason. But what I failed, I feel like as a student to recognize is that that's where an infrastructure is in place. If you need assistance, you need a listening ear, you need support. So now I'm very intentional at our interview day to demystify, being present down the hallway, and every applicant needs to know what Kentucky is offering in the way of student support and academic success. So that's one of my big speaking parts on every one of our interview days, just because I know that our academic success team, they performed over 1,700 meetings with students last year alone. And it's not because the curriculum was so difficult that everyone had to come in and meet. It was more of, students have test anxiety. Yeah. Why not nip that in the bud? Utilize resources available to you, right? Or again, if you just need a listening ear, take advantage of someone who is there to be the listening ear. So lots of good reasons why our students should find themselves over on the student affairs side and familiarizing themselves with the support team that's there for them.
Do students have time to have fun there?
We are in Lexington, Kentucky. It's an amazing place to be. I think so. When I think about what the city and adjacent areas have to offer, why wouldn't you be out in some of that? I think you have to have great time management skills. I'll be honest.
Yes,
right?
Of course.
Everyone knows this. But there should be balance with enjoyment outside the classroom as well. And I do think that Kentucky offers that.
What do you like to do? What do I
like to do?
Yeah, in Lexington, yeah.
Do you think I have fun? No, I'm kidding. This is a great...
I know you have fun.
I like being fun and having fun. No, Lexington has a great food scene. Shockingly, right? And I like to eat. I enjoy different cuisines. And I think our area of the state has lots of offerings in that way. We also have a beautiful natural landscape in Kentucky. So spending time out in the sunshine, or, folks might be familiar with Red River Gorge or Natural Bridge, obviously spending time there hiking. The beauty of Kentucky is present in every season, not just summer. Other things I might say are enjoyable are hanging out at Keeneland.
What's
with
Keeneland?
friends, right? It's a racetrack. They have a spring and fall meet. They're right here in Lexington. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So that's a common outing. Of course, if you can get to the Derby, that could be fun. And Kentucky athletics. I mean, Kentucky basketball is a pretty big thing.
It's a pretty big deal, yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. And then the other thing I might think about what I enjoy are just even things at my house, in my backyard, having family come over or hosting students. I have some students head over. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's a handful of things I think that you could get into if you were in Kentucky. And I would be remiss to not say there's a bourbon trail.
Oh, that's right. You guys have brown water there.
We certainly do, and that can be.
Calls it brown water because I pay a lot of money for brown water.
Yeah, he probably does. But being a part of the Bourbon Trail is always fun too. When folks come to town, family come to visit students or something like that, you can spend a little time enjoying landscape and the history of bourbon in Kentucky.
Yeah. Do you do any teaching? Do you have students on your service when you are on service?
I do. They're actually in the clinical setting with me. I staff a teen pregnancy clinic on Monday afternoons and 2 half days of pediatric and adolescent gynecology. We have students in that space, and I take labor and delivery call, and they're in that arena as well. I do teach one class, of course, on puberty and delayed and precocious conditions to the second year medical students. So that's sort of my interface aside from admissions.
Yeah, but you're really involved then, and
I
from
feel
the
like
beginning
it.
through the journey there.
Absolutely.
If I could ask you, Wendy, what would be some characteristics of UK students that you have picked up on that you find? Is there a common theme a little bit you see in some of your students that you've interacted with as you've seen them grow as medical students?
Yeah, Christian, I think they're driven, but I think driven in a healthy way. And by that, I mean, they're going to work hard. The work ethic exists, but they know how to strike the balance. They know how to preserve wellness. And that's what I've recognized, probably better than me at boundary setting, frankly. That's come with time. So definitely driven, very approachable, personable students, passionate about community and supportive of one another. I really believe when I tell prospective students that we have an environment that fosters camaraderie, I believe that. I don't think I would use that language if I wasn't seeing it reflected in our students. Yeah. So those would be some of the descriptors I would utilize for them.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Before we move to the admissions piece, I wanted to ask you if there's something that you wish people knew about UK that you'd like to get across to them, or maybe something that's like you can't really tease out of a website. Is there something that's special or that you want them to know about?
I think Kentucky is a hidden gem.
The state of Kentucky is a hidden gem.
And the University of Kentucky College of Medicine. I think globally, I don't know. I feel like most people don't have Kentucky on their radar. And as an individual who came here for post-secondary education at Kentucky State University, and then on with my first job here in research at UK College of Medicine, the Department of GI, as a path, an alum for medical school, I stayed here in my residency, obviously for a reason. Great training opportunities, and then stayed here for faculty. Could have gone to other places. Right? I'm from a state that has more medical schools than what Kentucky has. There was something unique to this culture, to this environment, that was a draw for me. And I think what I would love for listeners to consider is checking out Kentucky. Yeah. It may not be on your radar today, but hopefully after this podcast, you've heard enough that would say, I think and just come visit. We'll invite you into admissions. No problem. We'll take you for a tour.
You have tours and stuff. I saw advertised on your website. You guys have tours and things that you periodically, not all the time, but you
can click, you can sign up, you can see all 4 of our campuses. We would welcome you at any of those. I think what you would appreciate is that there's a different feel on each of the 4 offerings that we have, and we can help you navigate what space feels best for you. It's going to be the same curriculum, right? But which environment will you thrive in best?
Yeah.
So hidden gem. That's what I'd like the audience to
I'll put
know.
a link to the page I found that says how you can visit and sign up for tours and stuff. I think it's interesting that I'm in Northern Ohio, and I've seen friends of mine who live up in Northern Ohio, more of their high school kids going to University of Kentucky undergrad and other SEC schools, which is interesting.
That's right.
That there's a pull from the SEC, it seems like the Southern schools.
Yes.
They're recruiting, I think, more aggressively up north. I'm not kidding. I have friends that are going to Tennessee and Alabama and UK. A bunch of kids from UK or from up here are going to UK. So I think there's a movement. I'm not kidding you.
I love the idea of a movement. I think you don't have to work really hard to sell it, though. Once they come. I'm not kidding. I just did an undergrad tour for my own son today on main campus this morning. So we walked around in the bitter cold with flurries. Yeah. And he was engaged the whole time. Yeah. I think what's being, again, hidden gem, what's being offered here is easy to appreciate if you just make your way here.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. So now we've kind of whet the appetite of the listener, and I want to talk a little bit about, make a switch to the admissions piece.
Sure.
Okay, so let's start with, is there a mechanism that students indicate their interest in one of these 4 campuses, or at what point does that come into play as an applicant?
Sure. That's a common question, which it makes sense, right? That's on our secondary application, actually. Okay. So we allow applicants to select a first and second choice campus. They will only interview at the first choice campus. And we do interview in person. We haven't even mentioned that yet. We are a part of a very small cohort that is still post-pandemic interviewing in person. A lot of our capture is coming from the surrounding area, so we feel comfortable doing that. We definitely want to showcase the culture of Kentucky and really let our applicants know what it is we're delivering. So they come in person, but they interview on that first choice campus. Now, when does the second campus come into play, right? Well, they have the option of not being considered for a second campus. That's one. So you're not forced or pigeonholed anywhere. If you do choose campus number 2 and you make it to the alternate pool, when vacancies become available on your first and second choice campus, we will consider you for either one of those openings.
Okay.
All right. So that's how we navigate that.
On your website, your admission site, it's very clear. You list the AAMC competencies and things that you value. And then there's another part that talks about applicant characteristics, like other things that they're not essential, but these will enhance your potential. And there's a commitment to the state, commitment to underserved populations, commitment to a collaborative learning environment. Would you like to talk about those? Sure.
Yeah. So clearly, we're the institution in Kentucky for Kentucky. The name says it all. So when you apply to us, you probably need to have a pretty good reason why, particularly if you're outside of Kentucky, why you're applying to UK.
Yeah.
What's the draw? What made you come in? And we take, quite a few out-of-state students here for medical school. They have some unique perspective that they bring to the classroom. They add to that cohort of 213 where the other 212 will learn from that individual's lived experiences. And that's meaningful to us. And if it ties into Kentucky and our classroom benefits, well, then we want to move your application forward, right? So that's a piece of our commitment to the state and staying mission driven. Underserved population. I may have referenced earlier in this podcast that a lot of Kentucky is rural. And that's a huge part of who we're serving. So that element is very valued in a med school application. And not just, I'll emphasize this, not just saying rural somewhere in the application to say rural.
Right.
It should shine through. It should make sense. It should be genuine and organic in your passion for that particular marginalized group. And I would also add other groups who otherwise have limited access to healthcare, right? We're bridging gaps is the goal. So I hope that paints a picture of some additional things that we're looking for in our applicants. Folks always ask me about research. Do you have to have it in your application? We don't mandate it at Kentucky. I think it strengthens an application.
It's a nice to have, but
you don't have to have it. It helps strengthen your understanding of science.
Mm-hmm.
So, having that on an application, I think would work in your favor, but it's just not mandatory. And
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, I don't even want to cut you off. I could go on and on forever with characteristics.
No,
go ahead.
Because I'm going to keep asking you a couple of those. But is there a place on the secondary where people indicate this connection to Kentucky? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's question 3 that asks if you, I know I've got it all memorized. If you are not from Kentucky, what's your Kentucky tie? Mm-hmm. Right? Because we have the Kentuckians, we have the Kentucky preferred applicant, meaning they have a strong tie. Mm-hmm. We have our out-of-state pool. So then if you can share some unique perspective, I think it works in your favor because it really then showcases or highlights what your interest is in Kentucky and what unique perspective you can lend.
So an example of that could be, somebody just came to mind, like if I'm an applicant from rural Iowa and I say, I'm applying to medical schools, of course I'm applying to my school in Iowa, but there's this thing about Kentucky of serving people in rural communities. That resonates with me. I want, whether it's in Iowa or in Kentucky, that aspect of your school is what really stood out to me. This is a reason why I'm applying to Kentucky. Is that a feasible example, or is that a reasonable example?
I think that would be the tip of the iceberg answer.
Okay.
Right? Because then what would you do? You would further then relate to, something about the population in Kentucky. And then I'd be curious reviewing that application. Oh, well, what do they know about rural Kentuckians? Or what rural lived experience do they have that could be translated to rural Kentuckians? If that helps frame it up a little more nicely.
That was really helpful.
Yeah. Some folks would say, I drove through the bluegrass and it was beautiful. That's what they know about Kentucky. That won't work, will it? That won't. But if they had perhaps research in opiate use disorder and that plagues Kentucky, that stands out to me when I'm reviewing an application. I'm like, wait a minute, that's our patient population sometimes. And if this individual has unique research interest and we've got space here, not only could they continue those research interests, this may be a person that loves to stay ultimately in Kentucky and serve this patient population. So you can appreciate how the better you can tie to the state of Kentucky and our needs, the more likely or more highly sought after candidate you will be. Yeah. Obviously pairing that with the other things that we're going to be reviewing in admissions. Right.
Excellent tip. I mean, thank you for going into that a little more detail, because I think that helps students then understand, like, what are you really looking for? And taking that couple extra steps really, I think is going to be very beneficial to students when they get to that question number 3. What about you? Some other things that other characteristics you value in your applicants that you're searching for when you're going through applications?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're looking for those competencies, which I've been very intentional at our open houses mentioning those, so our pre-med applicants are aware that they exist. It seems unfair to be applying to medical school and not know what schools are expecting. But I would say honesty, integrity, resilience, professionalism is a big one, and you and I both know that. And can the applicant also, in demonstrating these characteristics, be organic, be genuine? You can be yourself, but maintain professionalism. Right. We definitely want the applicant to know what they see in Kentucky is real. Right. And then what we're seeing in the applicant is true to who that individual is as well.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that there's a good match, right? Because once you get here, we're vested and we want to see you through to graduation.
Yeah. Authenticity is key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you're in the right place. It's a huge investment, right?
Yeah. Because I think a lot of times students or applicants are just like, I just want to get in, and I'll figure out the other part later. But really, there is an emphasis, and it's too big of an investment to try to, square peg round hole kind of thing.
That's right.
You really need to be intentional about what you're doing and where you're applying when you're doing this.
For sure. Couldn't agree more.
How do you feel about medically related experiences? Doing that exploratory discovery of what it means to be a physician. Are these must-have kind of things, or a little bit? What is it? What resonates, or what stands out to you as the admissions dean? What are you looking for, just kind of globally in an applicant?
Mm-hmm. I do feel comfortable speaking on behalf of the committee with this next comment. Without it, they're not likely to accept the candidate. I just feel like our committee views exploration of a career in medicine as just that. You had an experience or experiences, you feel solid in your commitment to this profession. Mm-hmm. And it's based off of these prior experiences, right? As a physician, I feel that you never know what you're truly committing to until you're practicing, right?
Yeah.
But how close can you get prior to that commitment to medical school? And I think that comes from career exploration. Mm-hmm. So we do have an expectation. The number one question I get from applicants are how many hours are the hours you're looking for, Dr. Jackson? Mm-hmm. I've actually done a literature search recently in the academic medicine literature, just trying to see if anybody's looked at that before. And we don't have any magic number of hours that are predictive of the strongest medical student or the best doctor in the future, so on and so forth. I would imagine that it's easiest to get shadowing hours if you know somebody who's practicing medicine, right? You have a family member or a relative or something. But if I thought of all of the applications that come through and thought about average number of hours, I don't know. I mean, it feels thin when it's below, I don't know, 75. I feel like, I don't know how you feel with your own experience.
Yeah. Like 50 seems a little thin.
Yeah.
50 to, like you said, first number I thought was like 70, but then you said 75. So like 50 to 70. Yeah. But just like, that's what I was like thinking, like, oh, it was immediately when you're like, oh, it feels thin. But it comes to like also like the quality of it.
Absolutely.
Have you ever had people shadow you?
I have.
Consistently, like a few times come and shadow you?
I sure have.
What feelings do you get, or what do you see or hear from that student that makes you kind of feel like, oh, they kind of get this?
When they begin asking questions.
Say more.
It's like when they start tying it together, right? So you have some shadowers that will come and they're just kind of like doing just that. They're kind of your shadow. They're just kind of following around. And there really isn't any follow-up there. It's like, see you next time. Mm-hmm. But then I think for the one who is immersed and gaining the majority, the most from the experience, when they see the same condition the next time, they began to tie things together, right? I was like, oh yeah, well, the last patient that came with this, we did this. And now this patient has opted for a different treatment, right? So they begin to tie things together. I think the other thing that's important for them to see when they're shadowing is the lifestyle. Just because we've seen the last patient, it's not over, right? We have labs that need to be reviewed. We have calls to review. And yes, there are other things at home that are going on. So you're balancing I've got the email that needs to be answered. Yeah. So it is important for our shadowers to do more than just follow us around. And I think that, like you said, with more of a longitudinal experience, when it's been several times, not just a 2 to 4 hour window, they can gain from that.
Yeah. Oh, that's good advice, good insight for somebody who's listening. That like shadowing doesn't, I mean, you can be kind of the wallpaper.
Yeah.
But if you can take it like inch your way a little bit forward and try to be a little more engaged, do you mind if they ask you questions?
I normally save a lot of it at the end. I like to do that at the end because it keeps the pace of the clinic going.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, okay, what are the diagnoses we saw today? And I'll name them. I do this with my residents too.
Okay.
And then I'll say, what questions do you have about any of that decision making that we had today? Or what questions do you have about the medications that we prescribed? Or if there was something surrounding social determinants of health, right? we'll have a discussion on that. And that and by a discussion, I mean like, okay, it's the end of the clinic day. It's like an extra 15 minutes or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just tying it together for them.
Yeah.
Because if it's a resident, obviously they're a physician and they kind of get it. But if you've got an undergrad shadower, this might be their first experience, you can bring some things to light for them that could benefit them in other shadowing experiences.
Right.
So that's typically my approach.
Okay. Oh, awesome. I'm so glad I asked you that. I think that I hope a listener hears that in the first time shadowing, maybe the second time, it's maybe okay, or to ask the physician, maybe, when could I maybe ask you some questions if it's not in between patients? Because we would need to keep the cadence going.
That's right.
But if maybe at the end, can I ask you a few questions? Like, oh, okay, sure. Or like just find out from them. That's appropriate.
I think that's appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Can I also tack on attire for the shadowing experience?
Go ahead. Yes, please.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, if someone's coming to labor and delivery, that's going to be scrubs and we'll help them get that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're coming to the clinical setting, you want to make sure that you're professionally dressed. And you would dress the part, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're wearing appropriate professional attire. And if you have questions about that, a lot of times I'll get an email that says, Dr. Jackson, I'll be at your clinic. Do you have the address? Number one. And number two, what should I wear?
Mm-hmm.
And that gives me an opportunity to give them some ideas about what's appropriate for clinic, because I have witnessed, not in my clinic, but in a clinic in the same space, unprofessional attire, like cut off denim shorts. It's not appropriate for clinic, right?
Yeah.
So that also gives us as providers an opportunity to help a pre-med shape what professionalism looks like. So I just wanted to highlight that. I don't want to get too far out in the weeds, but
no, that's really good. This is what this is about. Like, because some students, they don't get this kind of advice. They don't have advisors in their life that help them with these kind of tips and walking them through what things to expect. And so that's what I hope these kind of conversations do, is reach people that don't have people like us in their lives that can, directly tell them what to do. But no, I think it's great advice. A couple of little quick hits here for you. How do you guys feel about multiple MCATs?
Well, it's not a barrier for us, but we actually allow, so let me take a step back. Our non-committee interviewer does not have access to MCAT or GPA, academic record. Okay. So when I say we are looking at all of the MCAT scores, we as in the admissions committee, and the admissions committee interviewers can see all of them. And we look at trends or trajectories with MCAT scores. Mm-hmm. We also break down the subscore and look, right?
Oh, okay.
When there was an increase in the MCAT score, we break down by subscore. Did they increase in all of those areas? Or did they remain the same in the CAR section? It's still the 25th percentile. The increase happened in other areas, if that helps. Yeah.
What about, do you use Preview or Casper?
We don't use any situational judgment tests in Kentucky.
I want to move to the interview day really quickly. You said you guys interview in person.
We do.
And do you do the MMI, or are you guys doing one-on-ones? What's that look like?
Yeah, we have two traditional interviews. Each one is 30 minutes. One of them is with a committee member, and one is with a non-committee member. Now, the committee member can be a student, can be a basic science faculty, or clinical faculty at UK.
Mm-hmm. Do they have open access? I'm sorry. Do they have open access to the application, or what do they get to see?
They get to see everything. Except if you're the non-committee interviewer, you're not seeing MCAT or academic transcript. Okay. But all other components of the application are visible. And they actually are provided those in advance of the interview so they can prepare appropriately for that candidate that's coming.
Is it a full day?
Half day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get started around 9 a.m. and our admissions team is outside waiting to greet the applicants. Our interview space is nestled, I'll say that, nestled behind some offices. It can be a little hard to find. So we definitely want folks to feel welcome when they come to us. So we're out in the main hallway. We get them into the space. And then I provide roughly a 45-minute slideshow conversation with the candidates, hoping to provide them insight about UK College of Medicine. And the areas I focus on are going to be obviously education and curriculum, research, and then the clinical experience as a medical student here at Kentucky. And after that, our interviewers come in. We do some in-person introductions, nothing tough, just your name, where you're from, your home institution, and then get our interviewers to introduce themselves too. And they're off for the first 30-minute session. And after the second one, we have a couple of roughly 4 second-year medical students that come in and have lunch with our applicants. Cool. And engage in some Q&A prior to a structured tour, wrap up announcements, and that's the day. We're done around noon or 12:30.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I heard 2 things there. One, plan to arrive early, because if you're nestled,
yes,
you want to make sure you have time to, find the place where the office is nestled.
Correct.
And 2, I heard they get to meet somebody famous, the Dean of Admissions, on that day, who gives a 45-minute presentation.
Yeah, I don't know about famous. Well, let's back up. The first comment. Yes, the room is a little tricky, and I would encourage applicants to come. Some show up the day before and find the room. And then navigate through. But, traffic can be pretty hectic, not just Lexington. I mean, anywhere, right?
Well,
in the morning as folks are coming to work, so on and so forth. So coming early is important. And then the second thing, yes, I want to meet the applicants face to face. I want to be forward facing. And I feel very strongly about being the individual that delivers the message, not because I'm the Dean of Admissions, but because this is where I received my medical education. And the University of Kentucky College of Medicine I personally feel, set me up for success. And I've been supported from the day I entered the space every step of the way in my career. And so I want to be the person that delivers that to people who have traveled to see us.
I think that's fantastic. What a really unique message you can deliver to those students that are coming to see you.
And maybe I chat too much, Christian. Maybe I get really chatty on that. I get so excited.
Well, there's a lot. You have good energy, and you've walked those hallways and kind of know what they're about to embark on at that school.
Absolutely.
You've seen it from beginning to, the other side. And probably not that many people all the time, that deans of admissions who went to that school, who are now the deans at that med school, who are now helping shape the future classes that are going to be, on a composite in color.
In color, for sure. Don't forget that.
Going forward.
Well, and also, I like to emphasize on that day, I have to apologize for the construction, right? Because we have a new health education building that's being constructed that they'll be occupying. So I need to, individually apologize to them for the racket that we have going on for this amazing new medical school.
When's it supposed to open?
The beginning of 2027. So they will be occupying the space.
It'll be here before you know it.
I know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
state of the art and absolutely amazing.
Oh, that's going to be great. I'm sure there's maybe some website that has updates on the new structure. I'll do a little digging to try to find it and put links to it.
Yeah, I think they'd enjoy seeing what's going to be offered and the space that they will occupy.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, listen, Wendy, this has been so much fun. What a delight.
I've had a great time. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thanks for taking. So I know you're very, very busy. Hearing all the things that you do, that you're sharing at the beginning of this. Do you drink a lot of coffee? Are you a coffee drinker?
Oh, look, I have my coffee with me right now.
All the time.
I've got my espresso. I love it.
And it's about 4:00 in the afternoon. So you're not just a morning coffee drinker. So
No. I'm an all day long coffee drinker.
I can see why. Well, thank you again so much, Wendy, for taking some time. I can't say how grateful enough I am to have had you.
I appreciate you having me.
Well, all right. Well, I'm sure I'll see you on an upcoming COA meeting soon. So
you will.
Connect with you then. So thanks again. We'll see you around.
All right. Bye-bye.